Hey guys, welcome to Hope It Helps. And my guest on the show today is AY, the producer himself.
What's
Ayham
going on?
Homsi, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, bro.
Thank
It's a really nice setup. It's very homegrown. I
Yes, it
like
is.
it. We're literally in his bedroom, by the way.
We literally are. We literally are. This is where all the magic happens for recording. Ayham, thanks so much for coming today,
Thank
man.
you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we got put in touch, through Thought who's a mutual friend of ours, and he's been talking about your company and your music for so long. And I'm like, I need to meet this guy and get him on the podcast because it sounds super interesting.
Thought
But yeah, Thought
Shout out to Tarek, man.
Shout out to Thought man, for sure. But for the people who don't know Ayham, why don't you just give us a little background about yourself and we'll take it from there.
So I'm known as a music producer more than anything, and that's what people talk to me about most of the time. I think I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I'm still figuring it out. I'm a creative. I've been in Dubai for a really long time, so I think I'm from Dubai now.
Sure.
Because you're like, when you're a nomad, you're born somewhere, you grow up somewhere, and then you're raised somewhere else, and then you spend the rest of your life somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm originally Syrian.
Okay.
I am still Syrian. I don't have another passport.
Yes. He's loyal.
I mean, that's kind of like just bullet points.
Yeah, the high level for sure.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Dubai and...
I didn't grow up in Dubai. I grew up in Saudi.
You grew up in Saudi. So
Yeah.
when did you make the move over here?
I came to university here. So high
AUD?
school, AUD.
Oh, okay.
So high school was in Saudi, and then I came to AUD because it was the next best thing. Because during the time where I graduated, it would have been like either Lebanon or Dubai.
Yeah.
And then the States was not an option because my parents were like, it's too far. What if something happens? How are we gonna get to you? I'm like, that's the whole point, Let me go.
The standard.
But then the war broke out in Lebanon. Like, it was around the assassination time.
Okay.
So
like,
it wasn't
didn't
really
make-
safe.
Sure.
So we kind of Dubai was the next best thing. So I just came out here and I never left.
And when you came and you graduated, were you planning to? Did you ever plan to stay here, or it kind of just happened?
You know what it is? Like, when you get to Dubai, you have this love and hate relationship with it in the beginning.
For
You're
sure.
like, I can't wait to leave. Like, I want to go and explore. I want to go to Europe and I want to do all these things. And as soon as I graduated, I remember my visa ran out, and then I had to I was looking for jobs, and then I couldn't get anything. And it was right around, it was 2003. Like, the economy was terrible at that point. Like, there was no jobs. So I had no visa. I'm like, all right, I got to go back to Saudi. And I remember I sent out and applied a bunch of companies, and I was doing interviews, just nobody wanted to hire. I went to Saudi and I was just miserable. Like, I moved in back to it was like one of those American Pie movies. I moved into my parents' house again. I was living alone here. So suddenly I'm in my apartment. My mom just knocking the door, barging through, no privacy. And I got a call from Shalhoub at that point, and they're like, listen, we're hiring someone for the PR department. I didn't even hear what the thing was. They're like, we're paying nothing. It was literally nothing. I'll take it.
Yes.
I just took the job because I needed to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Can I curse?
Yeah, of course.
So I
It's
just,
your
needed to, I just
show.
needed to get out of there. So I got out of there and I came, and the salary was so low, but I didn't know nothing. I didn't even know what PR is, right? So I ended up in communications PR, handling new car brands and stuff I wasn't even into.
Sure.
And I was in the PR department. I was literally the only guy, and I was working at Havas at that. I was literally the only guy in that department. I think there was one other dude. So I came out here and I was like, I'm gonna figure it out, because at the moment when I spent a month in Saudi and getting used to how organized things were here and the lifestyle and stuff, I was like, yeah, I can't really go back there. I just didn't see myself spending, because I also still had music ambition. I was like, Dubai is a lot more international. I could do more stuff there. I just felt like I wanted to stay here. So that's when I sort of moved back for work, and I've been here since.
Ever since.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the perfect segue. So you mentioned about the music. So I wanted to ask, where does your passion for music come from? Has it always been a part of your life? Walk us through that this whole music journey you've been going on.
Okay. Music passion. So I grew up in Damascus, Syria, right?
Okay.
My mom is actually a musician, right? So my mom comes from like university, like music band and stuff like that, you know, the Rahbani days, and she's had like demos and stuff, and she like funny, we'd have like pictures of my mom singing with the band and stuff. And my dad, which I found out later on in my life, used to own a record shop in Damascus.
Oh, no way.
He's an engineer, but like he just had passion in music. Till today, you'll ask my dad, you'll hum any melody from like the 70s or the 80s, he'll tell you the artist.
He just got it.
It's crazy. So I remember I always liked music because music was always playing in my house. And it was like, my dad had this video mixtape with like Bryan Adams and like, Stairway to Heaven and like all these like rock songs from that era, right? And then like, I remember coming across, I think my passion really like I'm a Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
I found like a Michael Jackson tape somewhere in Syria and I was obsessed. I was like, what is this? Like, this is incredible.
This guy? Yeah.
Like, I was never, I didn't speak a word of English. And like, if you spoke English and you were young and then you hear Michael Jackson singing, you're still not going to understand what he's saying because he's slurring everything, right? He was like literally the first Young Thug before Young Thug ever came because he was like already doing mumble rap kind of thing. Like, but then I liked melody and stuff. Like, what is this? And I would like listen to his songs all the time. And then I moved to Saudi and I just had all these tapes. And I would listen to music like, but I think all teenagers had this age, well, not teenagers, like young kids. They love music so much with a passion. But then I got my hand on my first computer and then I started and I found a software somewhere.
Would you use Fruity Loops to start?
Not even. It was like called EJ, which was really weird. It's like basically, it's like all these loops, you just throw them on top of each other. Everything is synced to the same key and you just build like loops and you build songs with it. And I started trying to record myself. And remember this, how old are you?
About to be 30, yeah.
Oh, so we're the same. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Perfect. So remember that old mic we used to have for like, the computer PC mic, really cheap one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, I can record, you know, like shit, I'm gonna be a rapper, you know. At the point, like Eminem is out, and like, you know, like I remember moving to Riyadh, and like for a while I was like pop music until like I met these kids, and they were like, yo, have you heard of Tupac? I'm like, what the fuck is a Tupac?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, check this out. And I grew up in the Biggie era. Like, I didn't know anything about East Coast rap at this point. I just got introduced to like West Coast rap and like Tupac. Oh, this is sick. And then like Dr. Dre, I'm like, oh my god, there's a white guy called Eminem, dope. And I was really into like rap. So I started trying to rap and it was really bad. Like really bad. There's demos out there of me somewhere that some of my friends still hold over my head. They're like, we have your demos. We will ruin you. I'm like, please guys.
That's lifetime blackmail there.
So like I got into music and I wanted to put things together. I was recording stuff. So I don't think there was a starting point for me. I just think I was always like kind of like meant to make music somehow and I can't seem to stop.
Yeah. And what's the kind of music that you like to produce typically? I've heard some of your stuff and correct me if I'm wrong, my perspective is a lot of it's like rap, trap, those kind of like heavy beats, but also like that are quite melodic as well. So like what do you like? What do you typically like?
I think so I traced it back. Once I started getting more into music and I started reading up and listening to the albums that I really liked, I traced back to a point, then I figured out what it was. It's Michael Jackson Dangerous. The album was produced by a guy called Teddy Riley.
Okay.
So, and that was like my pop phase. And then when I got into like my like rap music phase, I was into the rap. It's cool, but like I like the stuff with like the R&B hooks more. I always like that kind of like soulful R&B stuff.
Sure.
And then I was looking for pop music. I'm like, Blackstreet? What the fuck is a Blackstreet?
Blackstreet.
Right?
Legend.
Are those like Backstreet Boys? But like, you know what I mean? Like I hate the word urban, but the urban version.
Sure.
I picked it up and I was like, what is this? And it was like their first album. And I was like, and then I'm like, oh, I love this. And I was like so into like Blackstreet. I had every album. But like down the line, I'm like, oh my God, Teddy Riley is Blackstreet.
Oh shit.
And Teddy Riley produced my favorite Michael Jackson album. And I always like Jam and like Keep It in the Closet. Like people love Thriller from Michael Jackson. But I love like Dangerous, like you know what I mean, like Remember the Time, all those songs, and it was all Teddy Riley. And then I like my favorite, like my point of like really loving R&B music was like Blackstreet. I'm like, all right, cool, so it's one. So I really love R&B music. I've always liked melodic R&B, soulful. Like I like music that hits you right here. So even if I make something like with super like trap influence, I always like the melody to be so vibey and like if the music doesn't hit you right here and does something to you emotionally, I kind of like pass on it. Like I don't really like it.
And when you're putting like music together because, like you mentioned in those examples that there was you like the rap, but you learned the R&B soulful stuff from that. When you're incorporating music from different things, the question I seem to ask myself, because some people are like, oh, I love this music because they just care about the beat, but some people just care about the lyrics. So you as a producer, you're the one that's responsible for all the beats. So when you're working with artists, how do you guys come together on something that you're both kind of happy with?
Yeah. I'm not too picky when it comes to lyrics, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
And I think that's one thing that either I lack or I'm good at. Like I can't really tell you if it's like a weakness or a strength, but a lot of the times I'm more about delivery. More than what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. Like my concern is about that.
Interesting.
Because like, come on, like Kanye had a whole song like, scoopity doop, like, and it's just people were going crazy. Like he's just saying it cool. And I realized that you could say anything. It's just if you do it right. Like, and a really good example of that is I Want It That Way for Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
There's a famous story about that song where the lyrics, if you actually listen to the lyrics and try to break them down, they make absolutely no sense.
Okay.
So the writer who wrote the song is a guy called, what was his name? He's Swedish, I believe, and he's famous. The name escapes me right now.
Is he the guy that produced for like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and did all the pop bands at the time? Yeah.
It's gonna look really bad that I don't remember the name, but I love this guy because I always preach him, right? And he doesn't really like English is not his first language, so he's about delivery. So he also did Taylor Swift. He also did Can't Feel My Face for the Weeknd. And then basically, he's all about delivery. Okay. And I think it's always been that way for me because English is not my first language, right? So it's like I'm not the best. Like I'm not going to sit here and write the best song for you. I'm not going to lie. But I can tell you how to sing it for you to, again, like deliver it in a way where it hits.
Yeah.
So I think writing is not my thing. Delivery is more my thing. Like my brother is probably the writer. And he's always much better. And he always does things where I go like, you know what? The way you said it before was better. Or that word maybe. Like I'll probably like change a word in the whole song. Or maybe 2 words.
Sure.
But like really diving into writing has never been my thing. Like I like making the song. I don't like writing the song.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. But something you said that's very interesting about the delivery. I never considered that. I always thought it's lyrics, beat, but delivery is a key part in that whole mix.
A lot of the times it starts with beat, delivery, then writing.
Oh, really? Okay.
So a lot of people do a mumble delivery, right? So they say a bunch of random stuff, like they sing anything just to kind of see what kind of, because that comes to you naturally before you write. And then those kind of start speaking words to you, the mumble you're doing. You know what I mean? And you can hear early demos from like Michael Jackson. You can hear early demos. They're out there where you can hear writers kind of just mumbling things. And then somehow you start hearing words and you start plugging in like, oh, I wanted, like I'm saying here, I love or whatever. And you start plugging them out. And you start coming up with a song to write. Because a lot of the times when you separate those two, you kind of create the best version possible.
Okay, interesting.
You can't write and deliver at the same time. Some people are talented enough to do it. But a lot of the times when you talk to any songwriter, they'll tell you like we'll mumble things, we'll hum things, it's melody, and then we start writing words to it, and then it starts getting deeper and deeper and deeper and changing things for it to really connect. But delivery is very important. And some of the best artists in the world is because it's more about their delivery. That's why when you see like a song and you see like a baby for Justin Bieber and you find like 25 people credited on the song.
Yeah.
It's because someone says like, oh, don't say like babe, I say babe. Someone will give you like a different thing. There's famous stories about Kanye West walking in, a guy who's delivering pizza and goes like, what do you think of this song? And the guy would give him like a suggestion, and then the pizza guy would end up getting credited or some shit you know? It's a collaborative effort, but like delivery is important.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I was thinking about, because I feel that, correct me if I'm wrong, from your experience, I feel that when you're listening to like a really good song, the producer sometimes doesn't get the credit he deserves, and the artist takes that credit. For example, like you hear a sick like Kanye song, whether he produced it or not. Let's say someone else produced it, you're like, oh, that's a sick Kanye song. Very few people like will go that extra layer and can credit the person who actually produced that song. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true, or do you think nowadays producers are becoming a lot more prominent and getting the recognition they deserve?
It's a really complex question, because I've had a lot of instances where I myself was really outspoken about like producer credit. And it's something that I still struggle with sometimes, where there's a song that I produced that had 6 million streams today. Nobody knew I produced that song, and it's for a local artist, but like whatever, you know what I mean? I didn't get credited, fine. I don't think it's for everybody, but the reason why it's more important than ever today is because back in the day, I don't know how young is your crowd, but back in the day we used to buy the CDs and the cassettes and we opened them and there's like a whole full credit for everybody that worked on the song, you know, and lyrics and stuff like that. But like today that doesn't exist. You have to like right click on Spotify to get song credits. And most of the time they're not delivered correctly. So the people don't really get their credit in terms of production. I think it's important. But then again, like, there's different layers to how much you like something. You know what I mean? If you like art, you'll see a painting like cool, but you'll meet another guy go like, oh, this is in the style of whatever, and this is inspired by this guy, and this is actually the name of the artist. So I don't think it's meant to be for everybody. I just think there should be some kind of, not criteria, but more of like, the only person that kind of doesn't get a lot of the love from songs is like two people under it, like the mix engineers and the producers, right? They get like absolutely nothing from it, unless like you're a superstar producer like a Timbaland or a Hit Boy. But I think it should be like a thing between artists and producers, right? There should be a level of respect where the producer has played a really important part in the song. They should be credited for it, and it should come kind of like out of respect. You know what I mean? But do I think it's the audience's thing? I don't think so.
Okay.
Because it's more of an artist job. Like when you see like really famous artists, they credit their engineer or their producer, or they shout them out on the song, or like Jay-Z always goes like Guru. You know what I mean? Drake always says like 40 or Boy Wonder, or like he always mentions all the people he works with. My brother does the same, right? Like there's a line about me in a few songs, or Majid would do the same. So I don't think it's a crowd thing. I think it's like an artist-producer relationship more than anything. And it has to be like out of love, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, think about a really famous restaurant that you really like going to, but like, and the chef, no one knows who the chef is.
True.
And it happens a lot, you know what I mean? On the other hand, you can go to LPM and people know who the chef is. Like, it's more famous, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it depends, honestly. It's a very complicated answer because they haven't figured it out in more like advanced countries. And like,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But something interesting that you said that I didn't take into consideration was that it's on the artist to address that issue, not the crowd, not the audience listening to it. Yeah.
It's so there's multiple layers to it. I think it's publication, editorial part, artist part, and then the crowd. Like then the crowd would know. But if you don't tell them, they wouldn't know, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I think it's a multi-layer problem. Like there was a thing that was published a while ago by this like independent blog in Dubai. And they were like praising this artist so I worked with this artist called Michelle.
Okay.
And Michelle's incredible. Like we started working and it was her first project and we started really carving out this like soundscape. And honestly, like she really knew what she wanted, but it just came naturally because that's the stuff that I like too. So we ended up doing like a 4-track EP and it really hit. Like I think this is probably one of my best like bodies of work. Concise bodies of work. And then a publication or a blog from here kind of like, or from the region wrote like a really nice piece of review about it, right? And I got really upset, right? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where's my name? Why am I not credited in there? Like, why don't you mention me? And then a guy hits me up who's a really close friend of mine and goes like, bro, that kind of looks bad on you. Okay. I'm like, why? He's like, you look like the angry producer that's expecting too much. And I'm like, I get that and I respect that. But if it wasn't a review that was discussing the soundscape and the production and the style of it and how it sounds and all that stuff, then I wouldn't be upset. But like, you literally described all the work that I did. You just omitted my name from it, saying like, oh, like, you know, kudos to this idiot that sat and like mixed the song for 24 hours, you know what I mean? Or reviewed a mix 17 times or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like I don't want to come off as the angry producer or anything like that. I don't really care about, like, I don't have that type of energy. I have a really good relationship with most of the people that I work with. But I think after that incident, I kind of was like, you know what, like, enough is enough type thing. Like, I'm going to make sure that I get what I'm owed because, like, no one is fending. Like, I don't see an artist out there fending for us, right? And I don't see another producer fending for me or anybody fending for me. Like, I have to build it block by block. So I got to take care of myself kind of thing. And You know, it is what it is. If I come off as the angry producer or the producer that kind of like is screaming from like, let that be a lesson to the next person, or let that be something that maybe the next generation can take from and run with. You know what I mean? But I think producers are so important. The reason why we don't have a developing scene is because you can count the producers on one hand that are in the city, and every day we have a few guys joining, which is really good. But like, it's like people are like, oh, how come we don't have enough like music coming out from the city or from the region or whatever? I'm like, because you don't have enough factories, and the producers are the factories. Like, they're the people who are actually creating this art and helping artists realize their vision.
Yeah.
So how do you want me not to kind of like fend for my own, or kind of like tell people it's producers are important, or you should credit your producers? Because there's a kid who's sitting in his bedroom right now who thinks he's an artist, but he's actually a producer, but he doesn't know about it. And like, if we don't tell the stories, if we don't make producers look like heroes, because you think about it, right? An artist will make one song, 2 albums, 3 albums. A producer in the range of his span, like if he's really active, he'll make a lot of careers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Lots of careers.
Yeah.
So for every one producers become platforms, right? You think about a Timbaland, right? There's a Nelly Furtado, there's a Aaliyah, there's Justin Timberlake, and the list goes on. You think about a Pharrell, and then you think about how many people for like the Clips, Pusha T, onwards. You think about a 40, you think of Party Next Door, you think of Drake, you think of like whatever other artists that come from OVO. So every producer actually builds a platform. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They enable so many other people. So how are we sitting here having a conversation about a producer getting a credit?
Yeah.
How is that too much?
Should be a given, right?
Like, we should be getting our credit. And some artists told me, but I paid you your fee. What does that mean? What if I was a painter right now and you paid me to paint this painting? Is it still not my painting?
Yeah.
So there's a really weird line where artists are artists, you know, performers are performers, MCs are MCs, but a producer is just like we don't have the rights of an artist.
Yeah, exactly. You said it perfectly.
Which I find very weird.
Yeah.
My credit, I still deserve it. If anything, I should be getting royalty cuts from all the records that I'm making. I'm passing it on to you because I know you're independent and you're not making a lot of money. You know what I mean? So there's not like a level of respect for producers, even though we craft sounds.
Yeah.
Which I think is a shame. But you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah, you want to be appreciated for your work. And especially if the artist that you...
Not my shitty work. Like, if I'm doing a good job, you know, I get it. The artist is doing really well. They're all over, like, whatever. Like, they're cool, but, like, you know, it'd be nice to be kind of, like, cool. Like, kudos to you, too, brother. You know, you spent as much time working on these records or making them sound perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that just, it kind of hits on a nerve sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Something you said that I didn't consider before about production is that they really are a platform for so many people, and so many artists are successful because of the people that have helped them produce this music. So like you said, I think they should deserve to get that credit. But when it comes to working with artists, I'm sure not by now you've worked with like a bunch of artists. How has your approach or like working with artists changed, like from when you first started to now? Because maybe at the beginning you just wanted to like work with people, you know, get some music out, build up your name. But now that you're more like established, has that changed? How does that come together?
I think I have a different approach. First of all, I'm blessed because I don't have the typical producer journey. Like when I started, there wasn't like, when I started making music, there wasn't a lot of artists to work with. So I had to find them and then build with them.
Okay.
And then they weren't like a little more known or whatever. We kind of like started from scratch, right? And we built it, and then they became successful at one point. Some of them have, some of them haven't. But like, my approach has always been like very collaborative, right? Like I don't like, that's why I never took a fee in the beginning. Like like my starting point was very passion driven.
Okay.
I wanted to just make music, and I was just in the studio all the time, and I'm working with a lot of different artists. And then I started working but there's a guy called Hamza Housawi. He won X Factor.
Yeah, I was checking him out, yeah.
So Hamza was the point where we used to call him AZ. I still call him AZ till today. I don't believe it's Hamza. To me, I always tell him, you're AZ forever.
Shout out to AZ.
So he started, I remember I was working on like a producer album. So I was like, all right, I still want to sing a little bit. I still want to rap a little bit, but I want to work with different artists, right? I was like on my Timbaland shit. I was young. But, you know, so my friend, a good friend of mine, his name is Anas Arabi, who's still an artist today. I'm still working with him. He's an Arabic rapper now. He's like, yo, you got to meet this guy. His name's easy, you know. He's really good. He has amazing vocals, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He brings in Hamza. I remember at that point, Hamza was still also figuring himself out. And then he comes in and sings something. And I'm like, I remember the moment where I'm like, yeah, I'm not an artist. Like, he made me realize that I'm a producer.
What did he do?
He was just so good.
Just like his voice? Or
He was just so talented. I'm like, it's a shame that I would have to put vocals on anything and spend time working on anybody. Let me work on you.
Yeah.
Let's work together.
Sure.
Let's make records. And we started making records, and we dropped one song on YouTube. It's somewhere there. It's embarrassing because I do the intro for it. It's absolutely embarrassing. I hope nobody ever finds it. And we do that song, and like everyone starts calling, like early days of YouTube. Everyone's like, oh, "What the fuck is this? So good! Oh, the Saudi! Oh my god, this guy's from Saudi! Whatever, blah blah blah." And it kind of takes off, and then Hamza has like a little buzz.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And we start working on more music. I come out to Dubai. We're still working back and forth. And then Hamza starts taking off slowly until he gets the opportunity to get on X Factor. And then he gets on X Factor. And the rest is history. You know what I mean? But like, that was my starting point. Okay. My starting point was right there. You know, I got to develop with an artist and then see the artist kind of get to the maximum point. And this is an artist that everyone said, it won't work. You're Saudi, you're singing in English.
Really?
You know what I mean? There's a lot of like underlying issues and stuff. And there's like, eventually he ends up winning X Factor. And he sang a word in Arabic in the whole show. So it was really cool. And then at the same time, I have a brother who has been stealing my beats since I was young, right? He's like come in and like leave vocals on my shit or like jacks my sessions, right? And like brings in his friends. He's trying to rap too, right?
Okay.
So he develops himself to the point where I'm like, yo, you're dope.
Okay.
You're dope now. Like, let's work. And I would like throw him some beats here and there. And we start developing. And then like, long story short, we're in Toronto years down the line and we're making a song with Pusha T with Mo. Right?
That's sick.
Yeah. So like,
that's sick.
It's like my journey was always, I'm an investor.
Okay.
Like when I say I'm an entrepreneur, I am an entrepreneur because I never took money from any of these artists. Eventually, they paid me. But they paid me way down the line after years of work of us developing a brand together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when I started working with Momo was like kind of like everyone's like, bro, like this guy doesn't like, what is he like? We don't get it. And like I remember meeting a lot of people here in Dubai. It's like, no, your brother won't work. You know, your brother doesn't have the image of a rapper. Like he's not blingy enough, or he's not like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have the vibe of an artist. Mo is like a nice guy, you know, but he can rap. He's really good. And I'm like, nah, I like him. I think he's really good. Like I enjoy making music with him. And then like we kept making music and then it developed. Same thing with Majid. I remember hearing a song for him on the radio, early records. It was shout out to Big Haas. He's playing his song on the radio. I tweeted Majid's next. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, who the fuck am I to call anybody next? Like, I'm like Swiss Beats or something. So I'm like, yo, Majid's next. And Majid goes like, yo, I fuck with you. I'm like, oh, I fuck with you too. And then next thing we know, you know what I mean? We're opening an office in Saudi.
Oh, shit. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like everything has a starting point. And no one ever like sits here and like kind of digs under the hood to see the starting point of things.
Exactly.
Everyone kind of tells you, well, now I'm worth like $20 million and I drive this car. But like, I'm more interested in that's why I listen to a lot of podcasts. Like, tell me that initial story. Give me that starting point because no one realizes like a lot of things start with such a small beginning. And then they just flourish into these massive things. Like I met Majid on Twitter. Now we own a massive company. It's not massive, but we own an advertising agency. We own something that, in comparison to where we started and where we are now, it's like... It's
night and day.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, same thing with Mo. Like, Mo was like, oh, no, your brother can't rap, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We got a record with Pusha T, and we got, like, millions of streams and blah, blah, blah. And, like, we signed a deal with Sony, and, like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's, like, small, but, like, do you have... So, when you ask me about my journey and my process as a producer, I'm a believer. Like, I'm a fan first, you know, like, then later on, when we started the agency, I started working for fee.
Yeah.
Like, but that was way down the line, you know, like I was taking I worked with a few artists in my day for a fee, but it was like small money here and there. But then like when I started the agency, I needed to kind of like, all right, the agency, we're building it. It's not going to make money. I need to kind of like survive. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to like, I don't have anyone supporting me to kind of like stay like afloat.
Yeah.
So all my life, I looked at music as something that will never pay the bills.
Really? That's interesting.
It can't, bro.
It's very
hard.
difficult. Yeah, but I don't blame you for thinking that.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
But then I find myself for like a year and a half living off of music.
That's pretty
I'm
cool.
like, yeah, I want to start DJing. Boom, I'm like DJing. I'm doing all these gigs, and then like, where I'm doing all these sessions. My schedule is like insane, and I'm surviving from music. And I'm just like, I remember I'm on the phone with my mom, and I'm like, yo, the thing that I always did for the love kept me alive for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, and when I built this, like I owe everything to music because my creativity comes from there. And then like it also helped me stay alive in the most critical point of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not an easy point. So at that point, I started having more of like everything I've learned from other artists. And it's very hard when you take money from someone because you stop being, I don't know. I hate taking money from artists. Not because of anything. Because I want to be able to tell someone, get the fuck out.
And you think if someone's paying you, you lose the ability to be fully authentic with them.
You lose the ability to say, I don't want to work with you.
Okay.
You're working for money now, right?
Yeah.
So you got to do these sessions, right?
Yeah.
But I've always been a producer that came from the point of passion.
Yeah.
I've never been a producer that came from the point of money.
Yeah.
I've always never needed music to survive. But then and I've always been scared of that point. Mind you, I'm talking to you from a point where I've been offered a job at Universal Music. And I made a conscious decision to not do that because I love music so much and I did not want to see under the hood.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I love music. I never needed to survive off of it. I don't need to see what it looks like on the inside. It's ugly. I know it's ugly. Everything is. Everything you love, when you dig under the hood, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's never pretty.
Yeah.
The process is ugly, right? So I never really wanted to learn that part of it.
Okay.
And then when I started taking, and this is nothing like if any artist that I work with is listening, I love all of them. Like I have great relationships with them. It's just I'm kind of digging more into my psyche and
how you
think.
see things. Yeah, exactly.
And I never wanted to take money, but I was wrong because I started meeting so many talented people and it opened up the door. And I was known. I would speak to some people who go like, "Oh, you were known as a producer who doesn't work with many people. You're unapproachable as a person." You have this like really like unapproachable aura as a person.
Okay.
Coming from other artists or other people and kind of like this scene, like, oh, we don't want to like, you know. And then I started working for a fee and I started meeting a lot of more artists. And then I started developing my approach with people. And I started recognizing how to kind of bring out the best out of some people. And then realizing that I, as a producer, have certain capacities that I cannot get beyond. Like I have, in my opinion, one of my best projects that I've done is with Hamdan Al-Abri, which has never seen the light of day. Like we've done like 4 to 5 songs, which I think are incredible. They just never finished. You know what I mean? Which I think is, which makes me sad, but I was never able to finish the project. Not because I'm not worthy as a producer, not because he's an incredible artist, but then I realized that I'm like a specific type of artist. I'm like a vibe type of artist. Like, you know, and then when the agency took off, I started kind of like taking less and less and less sessions. And now I have like, you know, a few clients that I'm working with here and there, but it's a lot more selective.
Yeah, the ones that you feel like really fit your vision and the kind of music that you like to make.
Yeah.
Like the things you could think you could make the best music.
Like I'm not overcrowding myself with
exactly.
Like I'm not sessioning every day with
like
different artists. Like I have like 4 or 5 people that I'm working with and my core artists that I'm working with. I'm kind of like just
that's good.
I'm taking it slow type of thing. Yeah.
One thing you said about like in Hamdan's case, you made some great songs but it never finished. And one thing I was thinking about is, especially with music, you know how I think of music kind of like a movie. You know how like sometimes they remake a movie and a lot of songs get remixed as well?
Yeah.
And music never really... music, yes, a song is released, but you could always... that project could go on forever if you wanted to. You can always change something. So how do you know when a song is... when you're comfortable like with a song, like now this is good, this is ready, it's done? And do you think some songs should never be touched, like, you know, the purists might say, like, that is a classic song. There's no need for like remix with like Pitbull on that shit.
Yeah. How do I know when a song is... it's a feeling. That I get with a record, that I know it's done. And also, I know what it's like to work on a song forever. So it's like, it's 2 different things. My obsession is with execution. I don't like spending too much time on anything. Because I get to a point where I want perfection, but then I know that I have a buffer as a human.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do too much. And that's always been my problem. So like I always like look at my task. I'm like, oh fuck, I got like 25 songs that I need to finish. I'm like, I don't know how am I gonna finish 25 songs. I'm one human. But the point is, it's never finished. Art is never finished.
Yeah.
Like in reality, you could work on a song forever, but like the things that you do, like I think a song when it gets to like 80%, it's finished.
Okay.
Because that last 20%, only you hear it. You and the artist and a selected few of like an engineer or like a friend producer of yours will hit you up and go like, that snare, man.
Yeah.
You could have EQ'd between like, and I'm like, I don't really think anyone heard it.
Yeah, yeah.
And my one blessing is I am not a technical producer. So I'm 33.
Okay.
I've been making and mixing songs for so long. I really don't know how to like technically describe what I do. Like I have producers hit me up and go like, yo, that compression you did on that kick is like unbelievable. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to use a compressor.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, people who are watching this, if there's a producer watching this, they're like, what the fuck? How are you even a producer? Like, how do you think I think music is a feeling for me.
Okay.
And not that I haven't tried to get technical.
Yeah.
I just get really bored so quick.
Yeah.
Like I want to execute. Like I want to make music. I don't want to sit there and like, oh, you put a ratio 1/4 for like, couldn't care fucking less. I'll be honest with you. And then people hear stuff and I have artists or producers or mixers or whatever. And it's like, oh, that mix is great. I love how you did the widening, whatever. And I'm like,
I don't know. I just did it.
I just did it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like I don't really have like a technical methodology behind what I do. I've never done that.
Yeah.
And I've never had that. I've always tried to achieve something that I hear in my head or I've seen. Mm-hmm. So I archive things.
Okay.
So I hear like a snare or I listen to a vocal or I see a creative and I'm like, that's a cool idea. Archive. Okay. I just keep moving.
Keep it for the
I just archive shit in my head. Like I hear a mix and I'm like, oh, that delay thing is very cool. And then like 2 years down the line, I'm like on like some blog and someone's like, that technicality is called this. I'm like, oh, cool. The thing I've been doing actually has a term. Oh, awesome, man. Yeah.
Name to the process. Exactly.
Yeah, like, do you sidechain your 808s? I'm like,
maybe.
I don't even know how to sidechain till today. Like I literally don't sidechain them. People look at me, just know. I'm like, I hate sidechaining, by the way. Don't sidechain your 808s personally. But like, it's just like, I'm not a technical person. And sure. I think how do you say it?
Purposefully.
What he said. I've done that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, again, just like I didn't want to look under the hood, I still want to discover. Like, I love when I discover
shit. You want to learn, of course.
And then like a really cool engineer that I follow was like, I did this by mistake, and then it became a thing. Like this is a guy that I follow. His name is Jason Joshua. He's like, I really like him because he's responsible for a lot of sounds I like the Weekend reverb and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's very technical.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the first person that got me into like being technical. Shout out to like a really good friend of mine. His name is Robin. He's an incredible artist. So Rob would call me like, Robin is an artist, right? First. And then I think he's a great producer too. But Robin would be more technical than me. Like, yeah, like below like 50 hertz, he did one. I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying, Rob. I don't know. But like, he's way more technical than me. He's like, yo, sure. Jason does 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, and then like we start like, and then he kind of made me a little more technical than I was. He would give me like, oh, go watch this tutorial by Jason Joshua or whatever. So Jason was responsible for, well, not responsible. He put distortion on 808s.
Okay.
For Mike Will made it. And Mike Will is known to have like the fucking grimiest like trap records, right? And he said one day, it's like, I did this by mistake. I was kind of like trying to stand out between everybody. And then he's like, don't ever follow the rules. Because most of the things that break through are like kind of like wrong.
Yeah.
So then I realized in art, you're always going to have that really annoying person in the corner who goes like, oh, you did that, bro? That's kind of like technically wrong. Like, shut the fuck up, man. No, bro. Don't tell. Like, that's why when people hit me up and go like, what do you think of this? Is this wrong? I'm like, it sounds good. I think that's the criteria for music.
Yeah.
Does it sound good? If it sounds good, it's right.
It's cool. Something you said, once you started, like, for example, learning a bit more about the technical side, do you think that has helped you now in your more, like, in the way you produce? Even though you're maybe not aware of it, but understanding it more now, you kind of have a better idea of what you're doing and how you're kind of doing it.
Yeah. Once I got more technical, I think it helped me kind of like push the sound to like another like level.
Okay.
It helped me kind of get my ideas to be a bit more polished to the point where they sound a lot better. But has it made me a better art? See, there's a big difference, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like there's a lot of technical artists, or not even like there's a lot of artists who are very technical, but like their sound is like very like okay.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who are not technical, but they just sound great. Like a really good example of a person who's really technical, who sounds great, who've made mistakes, is like Drake's producer. Like when 40 did the thing where he basically they call it the underwater effect, like the Marvin's Room effect, when he like kind of you hear nothing but like but you hear nothing but like the low end of the song, you don't hear anything at the high end. Everyone thought he was filtering, but he was basically bit crushing, which basically you're losing some of the frequencies from the song. Okay. Nobody knew that for a while until he told people like basically I'm doing that, and that's a big no-no. And music community like, what are you doing, bro? Don't do it. But like 10 years down the line, it's like this sound. Like this guy has crafted an entire sound for the biggest artist in the world, and he was doing something technically wrong.
Exactly.
I'm going back to the other question for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm on a rampage here.
That's
okay. Fine. Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask you is, so you know how a lot of artists, I've like watched like interviews and stuff, and they talk about how, you know, as an artist, your music needs to evolve, and then like the example that comes to my head is like, I think of Kanye's albums like Graduation and like College Dropout, and I love them. But then as an artist, he evolved, and then later stuff I didn't really like, and then people like shit on like, oh, I don't like his stuff anymore. I like his old stuff. But as an artist, you keep needing to. I think you keep needing to evolve. So how do you balance? Like, how do you still keep producing something? Do I produce for people? Or do I produce for myself first? Do you understand what I mean? Because if the vibe goes away, do I lose like my status? Do I lose all this kind of stuff?
Well, there's two different types of producers and artists, right? There's the artist who's always trying to get like a hit. Yeah. And there's the artist who's just making music for themselves. There's always that kind of like two different. It's like food world, right? There's always like the unknown chef who's making like incredible food, but like he's not really making it to be like a fast food chain or a big chain. He's making it eventually it takes off. Yeah. But that journey is a lot longer. And there's the person who's trying to catch one. They're trying to get that one thing to kind of just have them take off. And you can hear the manufactured essence of what they're doing. A really good example, like, and it's totally out of what we're talking about, but like comedy. Okay. There's different comedians, right? Yeah. There's a comedian like Kevin Hart. You know what I mean? Yeah. He worked hard, but then he kind of like built something that he knew he was going to be a sensation. Yes. And then you have someone like Bill Burr. Yeah, Bill Burr is like, oh no, I'm not gonna be PG-13. I'm gonna say whatever I want. I'm probably gonna piss off some people, but I'm just gonna take the journey. And then Bill Burr was doing an interview, his podcast actually this week, and he said something recently. He has one with Bert, Bill Burt, and he was like saying, I remember Dave Chappelle saw me once, and came up to me. He's like, "You're really good. It's gonna take you a lot longer, but once you blow up, you're gonna take off." Okay. And that's exactly to answer your question. Like, there's literally two roads on this. And it's like, do you have... Is it a marathon for you, or is it like kind of like a sprint? If you're sprinting, that's how you go about it. If it's a marathon where you're willing to go through the process to get to the point of like the proper point where you're supposed to arrive to, you take the kind of like, you make music for yourself. A really good example is like a Tame Impala, for example. Oh yeah. Tame Impala doesn't make music for anybody. He goes off to the middle of nowhere, sits there with his band, and just makes music. He's not following but then again, like, you hear Tame Impala early on, and it's like, what is this? Like, I remember when I started listening to Tame Impala, it was because an A&R hit me up and was like, oh, we're working on such and such album. And that's when I was trying to get placements, like in the States and stuff. It's like, oh, her reference is Party Next Door mixed in with Tame Impala. And I'm like, what the fuck is a Tame Impala? I didn't even know what a Tame Impala was. And at that point, he already had a song on Rihanna's album that she took and she re-sang. I had no idea it was him. So I went back and I listened to him. I'm like, I was listening to it and my mind was just like, it was like an explosion. And I'm like, and I was like, what the fuck is a Tame Impala? And there's no rules to it. Like, he can't really give him a genre, but it took him a lot longer. But when he blew up, everyone now kind of like, it's more obscure. But like, you respect it. Like, yeah, dude, I listen to Tame Impala type thing. Like, you know music, you know. But he's blowing up, right? Yeah. So it's like, honestly, back in the day, you wanted to conform, but like, music is in such a beautiful space that you really don't need to. Yeah. Like, you can just make whatever, and if it takes off, it takes off. If it blows up, it blows up. You know what I mean?
And do you fall under that philosophy? Like, that's how you like to work, like with the artists, whatever is you're in for like the long road, or do you want like a couple more like
hits? I'd like to get a few hits. It's nice to have a few hits.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's just, how manufactured is your hit?
What do you mean by that?
So you can manufacture a hit right now. You can make. You want to you want to open a new restaurant, right?
Yeah.
You want to make a hit right now in Dubai? Open a fried chicken sandwich spot.
There's
You
not-
know what it takes for
Yeah,
you to
yeah.
do something that's super manufactured
Yeah.
that will kind of take off for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You can do that. In any profession in the world, there's an easy shortcut to things. Now, is that longevity? It could be, probably not. You know what I mean? So that's the answer to your question. You know, I can make it here, right? Hey Mo, you know, just throw in a few Arabic words here and there. Let's get like a guy to play oud here, and let's like say some things about like the Middle East, and like, you know what I mean? And then like it's a hit.
Khalas, you're good.
It work.
Yeah.
But is this longevity for him? I don't know if this is longevity for an artist. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to really manufacture. Like, you can manufacture something, and it can feel manufactured sometimes. But there's people who do it, and they do it so good.
Yeah.
And there's people who do it, and you gotta live with it.
Yeah.
Because if you make something right now that you manufacture and you know it's gonna hit or it hits, are you willing to sing that song for 10 years?
That's true.
Are you willing to be? You want to be that guy? Like there's a really good example.
Gangnam Style is a perfect
like,
example.
do you want to be that guy? Do you want to be the Gangnam Style guy for 10 years? If you can live with it. See, some people don't really like music.
Yeah.
They want the check, or they want to be big, right?
Sure.
If you can live with it, bro, salute.
Go. Yeah.
For me, I would rather not.
Okay.
Even though there might be like, I've been in situations where someone goes like, I got a massive check for you if you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. Luckily, I'm a producer. I can get away with it because I'm like, yo, just don't put my name on it. Give me the check, and just don't put my name, because I don't want to be known for that thing.
Ah, I see. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, as an artist, it's difficult because you're front and center.
Yeah.
So there's like a decision where you have to make, like, you're gonna make something. Maybe it won't hit. Like, there's no formula to it, right?
Yeah.
There is a light formula. Like, you can put it together. You can manufacture something. But are you willing to live with it? The biggest question that I ask artists is, if you're willing to live with it and this is your truth, if you're Gangnam Style, like, all the time, fuck it, dude. Do it.
Yeah, do
if
it.
you can be, like, people don't know. Like, at one point, Pitbull decided to become Pitbull because nobody remembers Pitbull.
Before,
Like, nobody remembers the Kulo Pitbull. No one
Yeah.
remembers the Pitbull that was signed to Lil Jon trying to make it. The guy who's singing about slanging like dope in the corner, like from Miami, right? It was
Yeah.
a dope ass rapper.
Yeah.
Like, I remember him coming out and his like projects were hitting. Like, it was really good for the rap community. But then like Pitbull was like, yo, I need those millions. Like, I got to do those J-Lo records and I got to be Mr. Worldwide, you
Mr.
know?
Worldwide.
So he made the decision to go from here to here. And he's like, I'll live with it. Are you willing to wear that suit for
My
10
white suit,
years? If you are, then yo, blessings on you, dude, and like make the money. But like, it's
Yeah.
all about that decision where you're like, can you live with your art, and are you willing to be that guy?
Be that guy.
Anything you make, you have to know something. With the world taking off these days, anything you do that goes publicly, there's a potential of you becoming that guy.
Yeah.
So you gotta always think about it like, can I live with myself being that guy?
Being that guy. Yeah.
That's ultimately that.
Yeah. I think that's awesome advice. And I didn't consider that, you don't want it like, I think you explained it perfectly about, do you want to go for the long game, the longevity, like you said,
Yeah.
or do you want to make that hit, and can you live with yourself being
Yeah.
that guy for so long?
Yeah.
In your music career, I don't know, how long you been doing this now?
I started when I was like 14,
Okay.
and I'm 33 now, so I don't know. I'm really bad at math.
Okay. So
My
sorry.
dad would always say, if we ever give you the accounts for the company, we're screwed, dude. We're going down. I'm like, yo, I pass them to my brother because Mo
Yeah.
is really good with numbers. Like, he's my number guy. So,
Sure.
Mo, how many years is that?
So it's been about 19 years, that means. At what point what was the turning point for you? At what point did it really like kick off and you moved into that like next level? You went from like a bedroom producer.
I still work in my home. Like,
That's fine. But you know what I mean? That like the credibility, like I'm now someone at least,
Yeah.
credible, respected in the community. What was the turning point for you? What happened?
turning point. That's a very interesting question because I still don't feel like I've had my turning point.
Really? Or at least the turning point to get to where you are now. What was that kick, that jump?
A jump? Wow. What's define a jump though, right? Because that's another problem I have. Okay, my sense of time. I don't know if we were recording.
Yeah.
I don't have a sense of time, which plays on. It has a positive and a negative.
Sure.
Where I don't I still feel like I'm 14.
Okay.
I still feel like I'm 15. Like I don't think I've aged.
Okay.
I've become wiser, but I'm still the same. Like I still have the same level of hunger that I've had when I first was like, oh, I can make rap, I can rap.
Yeah.
You know, I still have that.
Sure.
But then at the same time, I don't feel time.
Yeah.
Which is also bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm always late.
Yeah.
And people hate me for that.
You were on time today. You were perfect.
Yeah, because I finished something early. But like, you know, it's like it's a bad and good. So
Sure.
In terms of a turning point, I think the moment we have a thing that we talk about, like myself, Majid, Mo, we don't celebrate. Your celebration is only allowed for the moment. Like, you did this thing, but you're literally, as the thing is happening, it's done. So I don't know if it answers your question, but every time you put a goal for yourself, the moment you arrive to that goal, you're way past it.
That's interesting. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so you start a business.
Okay.
And you go like, I can't wait to make my first million. The problem is that when you hit your first million, that journey, and by the time you hit your first million, your mind's already on the next thing.
True.
You're not there because your starting point is right here. You're thinking about the goal that you're trying to get to right here. But by the time you're here and you're about to hit that goal, your mind's way past.
You're on the next one.
Yeah. So that's why you
okay.
never feel, or at least that's how I think about it.
Sure.
That's why I never feel like, there's a turning point. Maybe the point where we go and do a record with Pusha T, or maybe when we, you know, like Soul DXB used to be a big deal when we do like Soul DXB and Pusha T comes out and brings out Mo, or maybe, you know, like I just don't feel like I've had my breaking point yet.
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I love the way you described it. That once you get your goal, you're already past it. I've never thought of that before. But
think about it. You have a podcast right now. By the time you put in so much effort to get to your 100 episode, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And you want to get your first like 100K views. I don't know how many plays you get.
Sure.
Whatever. X amount of views. By the time you get there, you're so invested at that point. You spent so much on promo. You've done so much work that 100,000 that you put there is like, fuck this, bro. What is this?
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
mind's already elevating. And also, I've never been goal driven. I've always been journey driven.
Okay.
I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
I luckily wake up every day and I like what I do.
Yeah.
I like who I am. There's two things about me that I'm so blessed. I like who I am and I like what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know all my flaws as a person. I know all my flaws. Like, there's a funny point where when you hit 30, when you start recognizing yourself.
What do you mean? And recognizing what about yourself?
Just who you are as a person.
Okay.
Like, you know how they tell you, you need to change this and you need to grow into this and you need to become this.
Yeah.
I think you don't really change. You're still you're still the same person as you were at 10. You just know all your faults and you know how to work around. You hack your mind. You hack yourself. I'm always late. That's why all my reminders are an hour earlier from my appointments.
Yeah.
It's not because I've become a person who's timely. It's because I've hacked around my bad habits.
You've adjusted it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I haven't really, the way I'm built, like, people talk about DNA like it could change. Like, we don't come with an OS update, right? Like, there's no cloud right here that's updating how my brain is wired. Like, there's things that are in your instinct as a person, and there's things you're born with, and there's things that you're not born with.
Yeah.
And I think at 30, I've recognized those things.
Yeah.
So what I did was I hate saying the word double down. Because I sound like now I'm listening to, like, I sound like Gary Vee now.
Yeah, that's fine.
I doubled down on what I...
Did you hustle?
Did you hustle? You know, did you buy that coffee? Fuck that coffee. Listen, but what I did was I doubled down on what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I moved back from the things I'm not good at.
Which is right.
I knew what my weaknesses are. Relationships with people, I'm also great at because people always misunderstand me because I'm so forward in the way I
just say it as it is.
I say it as it is. And a lot of people, and I realized it used to really like bother me. It's like, I think that guy doesn't like me, or that person doesn't like me, or that person doesn't. And I think I got to the point where, but like, I really like who I am.
Yeah.
And then I realized the thing that really helped me was that just because a person doesn't like you, you don't have to not like you don't have to not like them.
True.
But why I've gotten to that point is that when you don't like me, you don't like me. That's an energy you put inside.
Yeah.
That's a feeling you have to feel.
Yes, exactly.
When I don't like you back, I felt something now. So now I've taken whatever you were doing and now I'm inflicting it on myself.
Invested it,
because when I don't like you, it's not like you fucking feel anything.
Yeah.
You feel nothing. You keep going by your life. Your it's like an energy I'm inflicting internally.
Exactly.
So then I started taking away all these things that, like, for me, like, I get affected by relationships a lot and people a lot. So then I started, like, kind of, like, stripping down my relationships in my life. All right, I love this person, but, like, me and him don't really click like that. Like, he kind of makes me feel away sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I kind of, like, put him in a little corner. Like, this thing I don't really like doing this. You know, I don't like taking those meetings. And I realized once you start isolating the things that make you great or happy and the things that don't, and you start doubling down on your traits that are good, on the things that you believe in, and it's just, you recognize who you are.
Yeah.
It's a weird flip. It's a switch. I don't know. I felt it when I was like 31.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I recognized a lot of things about myself, and I realized that, like, people were like, oh, that's my true calling and all that mumbo jumbo. Like, bro, when you're 24, you're going to feel no different when you're 33. You're going to feel no different when you're 60. Because I see my dad caught COVID, right? It's crazy, right? I was tired in bed. My dad's like, oh, I got calls. I'm like, what are you doing? And my dad literally thinks he's 20. Knock on wood, alhamdulillah. He's a young man, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Up here. And
Young
it's
at
like,
heart.
and I realized you don't really change. Your vehicle gets older. But like the programming in it is fucking same. You're just aging like a peach, but like, you know, the seed's still the same type thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I answered any of your questions, by the way. Like, I'm pretty sure I've answered nothing.
No, you've answered actually everything.
I'm just having a stream of consciousness right now.
Good. This is good.
Jay-Z, call me, man.
This is good, man. No, this is good. I love what you said about, you know, especially talking about the relationships and so on, and stripping those away. And as you get older, you start realizing who are the people that you click with, who are the people that you want. You know, your time, like you said, we were talking about earlier, you said, I have 24 hours in a day, and I'm stuck between my own business and like my music and stuff. Who are the people I want to spend my time with? Yeah. Once in a while, you have to include that random person. Whatever, عادي. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I love people.
Yeah.
You know, but
fine.
Then again, like, time is the ultimate currency we're dealing with.
Exactly,
right now.
and we can't get it back, right?
No.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
I wanted to move on to your business and the agency. So talk to people at home and people who don't know, what is Harmony? What do you guys do? And just walk us through that a bit.
Ultimately, we're a research lab. We're still figuring out what we do, but right now, we are a digital social media agency, right? We focus on strategy. We do like content. We handle social media accounts. What we'll be in 5 years, I don't know.
Okay.
But today, this is what we are, and I think it's encapsulated within what we do. And the reason why we built it was because when we were doing music, we're like, you know what we need? We need a dope-ass agency to market our music. And we just never, it's not done. Like, we're still on that thought right now. We're like, all right, we're building the dope-ass agency.
Yeah.
So we're still here, but it's like, we wanted to build the ecosystem around everything that we wanted to do. It's to the point, like, we want to do the branding and the music, and then we want to do the agency stuff. But then the agency took a life of its own and just became everything that we do right now. So during COVID, we took a step back. We're like, all right, we have a little bit of a slowdown. All right, let's start thinking about the label again and kind of like take some of the learnings and put it in there. So we started kind of getting back into it slowly. But it's just, the agency is basically just a social media digital agency with a bunch of young people who really know what the fuck is up. That's what we think that we're bringing to the table right now. And we're still kind of in the process of like building, and we continue on hiring and just adding more people to the team. But yeah, I mean, harmony.co, check it out.
Yeah. And what I like about you guys is that because you're all musicians, and like when I look at the website, the feeling that I got is that you incorporate music, culture, and like fashion. Those three kind of seem to be like the main things that come together. And I was starting to think, why do you think those three like factors are always so connected? Like if you think back to how like sneakers became popular, because the basketball guys were wearing them back then. The culture. So why do you think those three things are always that just connected to each other?
I think they're one of the same though, because
you think so? You don't think they're separate things?
I think they're one.
Okay, interesting.
Because culture, it's the center is culture.
Okay.
Culture influences music. Culture influences fashion, and I think it all kind of like they all borrow from each other so well, and they're kind of like the same thing for me. Okay. It all looks the same. Like when you're bringing culture to the table, you're bringing. Because you look at a dope artist and you're like, oh, he's so like, you look at like a Narcy, for example. Like Narcissist, for example, is way more than music. He's culture to me. I call him Ammo Narsi because he's so, even though we're the same age, but I just hit him up with Ammo always because he's so cultured. He's such an artist, but he brings so much culture with what he does, and there's music coming out of it, and there's fashion coming out of it. Like, you know what I mean? When you look at an artist, you see culture, you see fashion, and you see music, and it all encapsulated in one thing. And like Narsi is the ultimate example because I've always looked at Narsi and like, bro, you're like Kanye of the Middle East. You know what I mean? Because I always see him like, what are you wearing first? Right? Because no one can wear what Narsi wears, first of all. And like, obviously Narsi now is a lot more toned down. Maybe I haven't seen him in a while, but like physically, but he's still kind of wild. Like he has like a really great fashion sense where no one can wear what he wears and pulls it off as right as he does.
Yeah.
And then you see that's fashion, and then you hear the music. It's still kind of interconnected because he's still talking about everything the Arabs are going through, but he's still very artistic with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then fashion, and then it's all culture because he is wearing the tarbush.
Yeah.
He is, you know what I mean? He's talking about Iraq. You know what I mean? He is dealing with things that he's talking about how like things that our Muslims are going through and all over the world. You know, whether from Iraq or whatever. You know, so it's always been that way. Like fashion, culture influences music because like hip hop is a culture.
Yeah.
You can't even call it a genre anymore. It's kind of like, you know,
it's more than that. Yeah.
It's way beyond that now.
Yeah.
So it's like I think culture is very much fashion and music and film and art in general. Like it just influences everything, and that's why you have the whole like appropriation conversation that's going on around the world because you're appropriating someone's culture. But how are you? If it wasn't one of the same, how come when I make a certain genre, I'm appropriating music? Because it's the same. Because culture is kind of like really interlinked. Art in general is kind of really, fashion is really interlinked. Because you look at things that have been going around right now, like the conversation that's going on in the States earlier than obviously what's happening right now. There was a lot of appropriation conversation. The braids became a fashion conversation when it's really a cultural thing. Like it just it moves beyond just one thing. But I think culture is the core.
Culture is the core of all the things. I think you made a very good point that I used to always look at them as three separate areas are interlinked together, but listening to your explanation, it does make sense they are part one and the same.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, culture that is the core of it because, like I said, hip hop now is not just a genre; it's a lot more than that. I think anyone who listens
when I say hip hop, you're gonna think of someone dancing, someone rapping,
wearing some sneakers.
You're gonna see a whole thing where it's like it's beyond just a genre.
Exactly. Yeah. And you guys said something on your website which I liked, which was using out of the box thinking to create the best experience. Now I have two questions.
Yeah.
How do you start when you're like in your process, like working with a brand? How do you, when you think about out of the box thinking, what are the kind of things that are going through your head, and what to you is a good experience? How would you describe like a very good experience in your own words?
I have a really good. Okay, so I don't know if there's any people here listening that I've worked with before or whatever, but clients tend to become like they lose their humanity when they walk in the office.
Okay.
So weird, right?
Okay.
You talk to a client and they're giving you a brief for a thing they'd like to do, but it's the furthest thing from the thing they're trying to achieve.
Okay.
Like, I always ask the question, what are you really trying to do? What's the center of the thing that you're trying to do?
Yeah.
And it's always something, but then whatever they're trying to communicate or do is the furthest thing from that thing.
Okay.
For example, hey man, I want to launch a product. You know what I mean? I want to throw a dope ass party and I want to be 1, 2, 3, 4. But I want to put my brand everywhere. I want to play really corny music, and then I want to do it at this whack ass venue, and then I want to bring this guy and this. I'm like, hold up. You just said you want to do a dope party. None of the things you described are dope. Everything you're talking about is not cool. Right?
Yeah.
So if you want to do something, let's do the thing you're trying to do. It's not really in the box, it's putting people back in the box.
Okay.
Really focusing them back on the what they're trying to do. Because a lot of people think that like brands oversell so hard.
Yeah, they do.
Like, stop, man. I know you are a brand. It's very cool, but like you understand how crowded it is these days. Like the less you say and the more that you do, the better a turnaround for you at the end of the day. Like, so a lot of the times brands want to do cool shit, but then they ruin it with all the uncool shit they want to do that comes from like corporate level stuff.
Yeah.
Which basically I think is the biggest problem that we have. Is like, I always ask a client, I'm like, all right, this is what you want to do. Now close your eyes. You don't work for this company and you're a consumer. Would you buy into whatever the fuck you just told me?
That's good. That's good. That's a very good question to ask them.
You're a consumer first.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think what makes me good or what makes the guys good is that we're consumers. We buy into things. Like, I'm the guy who's coming in saying, yo, have you heard of this? You should buy this. You should buy it. Like, I've made my friends buy a bunch of stuff that are just like probably useless by now because I'm a consumer.
Yeah,
At my heart, I like being a consumer. Like, I love product. I love packaging. Yeah. I love when you tell me, oh, this product's going to change your life. I'm like, oh, it's going to change my life. Like, I buy into things, right? Sure. But then again, it's become so loud and noisy.
Yeah.
Like, for example, an amazing brand in town bought a massive billboard, put an international person on it that was on a sitcom from 20 years ago to promote a fast-moving product. And I'm just like, you spent 2 million dirhams a month on that. What are you doing? Who's doing your media planning? What's going on in there? Because I'm a consumer and you're trying to sell my age group or lower.
Sure.
Guarantee you we're not looking at billboards.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The stupidest thing that I see right now is billboards on the street. And a lot of people are going to be like, that's stupid marketing talk. You know how many eyes are on it? We do a conversion of, bro, come on, stop. You know, those are the things that bother me. Is I see, and I speak to people that work in brands, and they're like, oh, we know that. But like, we have to do the things. And it's like, there's so many things that like, they want to do something. It's like they say they want to do a lot of things, but the things that they do are completely opposite from what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, you take a lot of cool, like, we want the coolest idea that you have. You take the coolest idea that you have, and they just strip it down all the way to it not being cool anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why what we do is right now what we're doing is we're launching something called, I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but like, I hope the guys don't kill me. We've always wanted to we've always done this, develop concepts without a brand.
Okay.
Like, develop ideas and then basically find homes for them.
Okay.
Because when we develop them and we take them to a brand, it's already developed if they want to get on board in some shape or form. So we call that it's like an agile department where it basically just works on cool things.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Like, it's not really like backed by a brief. And we've always done that. Like, when we went to D3 and we're like, we want to do Unplugged, there wasn't a brief that was out there. We kind of like built something and took it to D3, or we built something and we used to be all about that. But like, we literally feel like we're less about that right now. So we're like, all right, we need to take a step back and kind of like really do this.
Gotta bring that back in.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool. But I don't even remember what the question was. Hands to God. What was the question?
The question was about, in your mind, what do you think? It was two part about creating the best experience. What does the best experience look like to you?
Okay, let me answer that.
Yeah. Before we
so back to that.
Yeah.
The best experience is the best experience.
That doesn't mean much.
What do you think is a good experience? If you're creating the experience right now, what do you think is dope?
Something that people are going to talk about for a while, or like something you're going to remember.
That's not the best experience.
You don't think so?
That's something people are going to talk about. What is your best experience as a consumer? If you pop up right now, there's a brand launch. What do you want in there?
That's a good question. I wouldn't even know how to answer that, to be honest.
You want something. As a consumer, if you close your eyes and you work in marketing, you want something. That's the best experience. You want to do the best experience, really. Don't just coddle it up and just think about brand, logo. Where's the experience? What is it?
So is the experience the feeling that I'm trying to like give you?
The experience is literally the experience. What kind of music are you playing? What kind of food are you serving? What venue are you using? What feeling are you bringing to people? You know what I mean? What are you giving consumers when they show up to if it's an experience, right?
Yeah.
What do you... Fucking Gary Vee. Value. It's value.
He says the right shit.
But value first.
Yeah.
A lot of brands are like, ask first.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to buy your product. Give me value. Like, you know who's doing something amazing that I saw this week? There's a company called Aswaq.
Aswaq, yeah. The grocery store?
No. It's like it's an online platform. It's an online, I think it's like a stock trading platform that's really young.
Okay.
So I saw something they posted, and they were doing like really cool financial advice by people. And they're telling you all the wrong things they always thought about investment or financing or how to handle their finances or whatever. I hope I didn't butcher what they do.
Yeah.
Because I have a very short attention span. But I thought it was so good. You didn't tell me what you do. They didn't tell you, by the way, go to do this. No, they were like, they just showed you a really good advice, and it's really like a good piece of content. I'm like, that's good marketing.
That's good marketing, yeah.
Because you came across with something where you presented value first.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't give value first. They just ask you to just buy, sell. But it's like, it's so crowded. Like, how do you stand out?
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
So the best experience is something that presents value first.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Now I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I want to be conscious of our time, but so for my last two questions.
Yeah.
Number one, what's from a music perspective, what's the end goal for you? Do you have something in mind, like, okay, I know you're going to keep doing it, and like you said, you'll get to the goal, another one will come, but what is something that you truly like would want to, if you can achieve that, you'd be like, I can, whatever happens after is great, but I've achieved the goal that I've always wanted to achieve. What would you like?
Okay, so I'm still on my creative world and stuff, like journey and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I've moved past it where I feel like I want to create longevity and stability for everyone in my team, from the creatives that I work with, whether they're the producers that I'm currently work with or the artists that I'm work with. I want to find the perfect formula for me to be able to give them the safety they need to create, and I want that formula to be I want to be able to replicate that formula for everybody that I think is amazing.
Sure.
That is, like, before I go, I just want to give artists the
foundation
somehow.
Yeah.
For you to be able, an artist in our region, to pay your rent, to pay your dues, to be able to live a decent life. I'm not saying I'm gonna make you a millionaire, but like to be able to pursue, because that was my dream when I was young, to find a way to just build a foundation for artists to be able to pursue without having to feel like they can't survive.
Yeah. I think that's an awesome dream, man. Yeah. That's really, really cool that you're planning to do that, because like you said, given your experience, you got into music for the love of it, and now you're able to create something out of it, so you want to have something that people can, just carry on with.
I want to do it for me first, don't get me wrong, and then I'll let you guys in the door, but like...
Which is fine. You got to do it for yourself first anyway, otherwise you can't.
But I'm building it for the whole team. Like, the whole idea is, like, we recently launched... we started doing sample packs, which is like a producer product.
I saw the thing you did for Beirut, right?
Yeah. So we started doing it with me, like, we're 4 producers. So we started building the whole, like, a startup within a startup for like a whole other thing. And it's like, I see something, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm trying to figure that out, like everything around it. The company, the packs, there's something in there. I just can't seem to get my finger on it. But when I do, I'll let you guys know.
Yes, please do. We'd love to know. And I wanted to say, man, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been awesome.
Thank you, man.
And the last question that I ask all my guests is, what is the message that you like people at home to take home with them today?
Honestly, do not focus on your goals too much.
Do not focus on your goals too much.
Know what they are. Don't make them the thing. Okay. The moment your goals become the thing, it's such an ugly journey. Because when you arrive, you're empty. You haven't enjoyed... Like, I see a lot of people that are so engulfed in, I want to... Whatever, financial, whatever. I want to get there.
Yeah.
And they're just like...
Yeah,
I'm just like, hold up. Look around you. Yeah. Look where you are. You're in an awesome party, or you're doing this, or you're working overnight with these awesome people, or you've built all these friendships, or you've enjoyed your time doing all these things. Like, do not just build a house to then find yourself living alone in it. Like, don't make the thing, like, you know what I mean? Like, enjoy your journey. And if you don't do that, honestly, it's such a sad time that you're about to have.
Yeah. So focusing on... Be aware of the goals, but it's not all about the goals. It's about the journey.
Because when you arrive, you're
already on the next one.
You're done.
You
let's say your journey takes 80 years. You'd be 80 and miserable.
Yeah.
With $10 million, and then what? You know what I mean? But like, enjoy it, because that's it. Life is a journey. Like, if you don't really enjoy that process, if you don't enjoy the process of what you do, start thinking about changing that.
Yeah.
And one other thing is multiple streams of income. Please, everybody. Diversify as much as you can.
Yeah. In
whether it's stocks or whatever you want to do. Like, build different ideas, invest your time, work on different things. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's great advice, my man.
I said I want to leave. We're like, here, 3 hours later.
No, I just want to be mindful of the time. Thank you so much for coming on today, man.
Thank you for having me.
This was awesome. To everyone, guys, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And as always, hope it helps. Peace.